Hello there, welcome back to Bowl of Nicole. So the other day my mom sent me this picture and it is so me, it is so accurate. So I decided to use that as inspiration for my video. So I decided to go to the dollar store and create some things like these. So I have 4 different tutorials that I'm going to include in this video that I use different supplies from the dollar store and a couple of different craft items like hot glue for under $20. So let's get to it. So I forgot to mention that I got all of my supplies specifically at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start the tutorials with this Dia de los Muertos sugar skull. They have these plastic skulls and they look just kind of generic, so I thought I would change that into a sugar skull. I started out with painting it a brighter white. I went over that with 2 separate layers of white paint, just basic regular craft paint. And then I took black paint and went over the eye sockets and nose, and I wanted to make sure that the nose looked like an upside down heart, because in a lot of the reference pictures of these sugar skulls they have that very defined upside down heart nose. And I traced all of the teeth and gum lines with the black, and then I just did a rough sketch of where I wanted to put my gemstones. I used a reference photo on Google. I basically just typed in simple sugar skull template, and then I just started sticking them on in a lot of different swirly and flower designs. And these gemstones actually have an adhesive backing, so you could just go ahead and stick them on. That way it would probably take a lot less time. I just wanted to make sure that they were really going to stick for a long while, so I used hot glue as a reinforcing adhesive. So overall this process took about an hour and a half to complete. Next, I created a little witch figurine. So I took a black t-shirt that I found at the Dollar Tree. I cut it to size to be able to glue around this cone foam piece that was used for floral design. And I made sure to fold the edges under so there was no exposed cut line. And I made sure to glue the end down to the bottom of the cone so that it wouldn't slide up. And then before I finished the gluing of the shirt onto the cone, I decided to paint the face of the witch so that I could leave that to dry. And I mixed up a couple of different colors like tan, white, pink, and orange just to get a flesh tone, and I painted this little foam ball all over. And then while that was drying, I went back to the cone and the dress part of the witch and I glued down the top. And I found this foam cowboy hat, and I liked it because it had sort of a velvety texture on one side. I cut the rim off of the hat. I used this to create the witch hat, cut out a square type piece, I cut along the edge to just make it as circular as possible. And then I cut another piece and folded it into, or twisted it into, a cone shape for the top of the witch hat and glued that down with hot glue. And then I measured out where that cone would line up with the bottom and cut out a smaller hole in that. And then I cut little notches in that hole so I could fold those up and glue them to the inside of the cone part of the hat. And I glued all of that within the hat with hot glue. And there you have a little witch hat. And then I gathered some of this raffia into just a half piece. I'm going to use this for the hair, and I just found some random string that I had around, so I tied that to the top. I glued that to the top of the head, and I used a little sewing pin just to keep that in place, and I cut the hair to make sure that it looked well with the hat. And then to put on the hat, I actually used sewing needles, which if you have pins that would probably work better because it kind of hurt putting these sewing needles in. You could also use hot glue to glue it on the head. I just found that this stayed better. And then I went ahead and painted on her little face. I wanted to keep it cute, but you certainly can make her look scary. You can paint her green or whatever you want to do. When I was finished with painting her face, I stuck her on the top of the dress part with hot glue, and I just held the head there until it stayed in place. And I thought about this after the fact, but it would be kind of cute to use some of the raffia, the extra raffia, and maybe a stick from outside and make a little witch broom. Then I thought she looked a little too plain, so I cut out a little collar from the remaining piece of the cowboy hat rim and glued that on behind her, just make it have a little bit more shape to the dress. So then we have these little ghosts here. This was probably the easiest of the tutorials. I just used these extra little foam balls from the package from the witch head. I cut out some squares from a white table cover. I also cut some longer strips as well. And all you do is you take one of those squares, wrap it around one of the balls, then tie one of the strips around that to keep it in place. Get your trusty hot glue gun and glue on these little googly eyes. And then I used a permanent marker to draw on a little mouth, stuck on the clothespin with hot glue to make sure it was able to hang. And I did that 2 more times. Last but certainly not least, we have this cute little jack-o'-lantern. Maybe she could be called Jackolantern. These little carvable foam pumpkins are available at the Dollar Tree. They look pretty fake though, so I went ahead and painted on a coat of a duller, less fake looking orange. Then I went over the creases with a brownish orange combination color and patted that out to make it blend, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And I'd use that same technique, but more just with my fingers, with a yellow on the top, again to give it more dimension. Then I painted the stem brown instead of green because I figured, you know, it's dead. And then I took a thicker bristle brush and just dabbed it in some light tan and really dried that off to where it was barely any paint on the tips, and streaked that up along the stem so that it creates that wood looking texture. And then I painted on your classic jack-o'-lantern face just with black paint. I took some of these fall leaves and glued it onto the back of the stem area, and then created a raffia bow, and I stuck that on there, but I actually wound up taking it off because I added this green shimmery bow behind it and then added the raffia bow on top. And then I added eyelashes, and I washed over a bit of shimmery metallic-y gold paint to give it a little extra dimension and personality and shine, as well as filling in some of the areas in the face with that gold shimmery shine. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first tutorial video and I would love to do more if you liked it. I would love to see if any of you try this. Tweet me or Facebook me with any pictures of any of these that you might try, or your own version of Halloween craft decoration ideas with supplies that you got from the dollar store. Or comment below if you would do anything different with these type of crafts. I would love to see what you guys create. So that anyway, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe down below. Follow me on social media. Tweet me on Twitter with #BowlOfQs for future Q&A videos. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye!